Welcome to the Book Asylum. Tonight's special guest is the author of Nightmares, Jay Bauer. I'm Dungeon Dan. I'm here with Jen Folk and, of course, Jay Bauer. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so
guaranteed
excited
to be a
have
good
you.
time. I'm very
Yes.
excited.
We've been chopping at the bit all week, and we were really glad to be able to reschedule you for this time, for right now, so that we could get this recorded and everything. But because
Awesome.
I want to brag a little bit, I was able to get that special limited edition title, Cadaverous. I got the limited edition book. I'm very excited. So I just wanted to brag a little bit. So
Awesome.
for everybody,
Thank you. I really appreciate
everybody
it.
who didn't get to do it, neener, you missed out on some really awesome stickers.
It would have helped if you'd told the rest of us, Jen.
It was on Facebook. That's how I saw it.
Fine. Fine.
And if it's on Facebook, it's real and it's gold and it's out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jay, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Here.
Doing good. Doing good. So obviously Jen's already got her book. Mistake number one, guys. I'm notorious for this. And I'll just tell the audience, I was talking with Jay earlier, trying to get him to help me choose one of his numerous books. How many books do you have out right now?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. I think it's like 12 or 13, something like that.
Jeez. And what's the time span of when you first published your first book to your last one?
I published the first one in 2018, I believe. And
Dang, you've been writing like a madman.
Yeah,
that's
something like that. Yeah.
That is a lot. Well, I mean, I've always been attracted to your books by the cover. Every time, I literally see Jay Bauer books pop up on my Facebook feed all the time, and you got like some of the best covers.
I appreciate that.
I love I'm sorry, I'm not going to know the title, but I love the one with the house and the chick that's up there floating above it. I mean, that was like so creepy.
Yeah, that's Hanging Corpses. That's
Hanging Corpses,
a short story collection of mine. And speaking about that cover, I got that cover for free from the cover artist. It was a guy I was following on Instagram, and he was just he was doing some pre-made covers, so it wasn't like a customary thing. He had these pre-mades, and he was like, "Hey, any authors that follow me over the next 24 hours, you're free to get any of my covers that you want for free." So just
wow.
So I was like, cool. I never know when I'll need a cover, right? And so I did, and he contacted me. He's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know you can get a cover." And I had my eye on that one because it just was creepy, And
yeah,
I had a story. It was, the original title was "The Hanging Corpses of Cuyahoga County," because I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, which is in Cuyahoga County. But that title would have sucked on the front of that.
Yes, nobody can say Cuyahoga.
Right. So
I'm from Ohio. That's the only reason that I even know.
So I shortened it because I was like, well, let's just go with Hanging Corpses because that sounds cool. Mm-hmm. And so I changed the story to just Hanging Corpses. And my initial idea was that I was just going to use that cover for the short story and maybe do it as a giveaway, like for people that sign up on my newsletter. But I showed the cover, and people were going nuts about it. They were like, "Oh my God, this is awesome. I'm buying. I don't even know what it is. I'm going to buy it." And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I got to do something with this then. Like
now you're committed.
Expecting that. And so I had all these short stories that I've been, that the rights have reverted back to me, or just I've written over the years and haven't done anything with. And I was like, okay, well, let's do something then. And so I put it together as a book, only because I thought you mentioned Dead Blood. I had released the 3 books, and I thought I was going to write more of it. And I had all these new readers, and I was like, man, I got to give them something new to read in the meantime. So I was like, I'll just do this short story collection, and threw that cover on it, and it was probably one of the best decisions I could have ever done, man, because that cover attracts so many people. It was, I mean, this sounds bad to say it this way, but it was kind of just like an afterthought of the cover and even the book, you know. But it turns out it was way more than that. So I'm really thankful about that.
It's an amazing cover, isn't it?
And it just goes to show you how much people really do pay attention to the covers, because, you know, because a lot of people do choose a book by its cover. And
yeah, they may not like it once they read it, but when they will
but
pick
they
it
bought
up.
it because the cover's cool.
Right. Yeah. And actually the same artist that did that one did the Cadaverous cover.
Yeah.
And I love that cover too. As a matter of fact, I love just about all your covers. They're all really, really good.
Thank you.
So finishing my original thought, Jay had told me, why don't you start with The Bad Blood? And I was talking about the fact that I'm just so done with vampires. But I have to admit, there's been some other authors that I went ahead and read their vampire book and wound up loving them. So I went ahead and I bought and downloaded the audio for book 1 of Bad Blood. Was it? I can't even remember. Dead Blood.
Dead Blood.
So just to let everybody know, while you're watching this, cruise his books.
Yeah, definitely.
While I was looking at title, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jen.
No, you're fine.
Oh, you know, I was while I was trying to figure out what book to get, I was reading your reviews, and I was really actually pretty amazed. You got like solid reviews on almost every one of these books, like just straight 5-star. I think there was 4. That was like the lowest.
Yeah, some of the books are definitely don't have that good reviews. Some of them got hammered me pretty hard, and that's okay. You know, like I used to get kind of upset by 1-star and 2-star reviews, especially if they were pretty mean. But I've gotten to a point now where they don't really bother me so much. You know, if they can leave some information, that's great, because then I know how I missed the mark and what I can do to improve. Right. If they just leave a rating because whatever, you know, that doesn't
say anything,
but it doesn't help me as much. And honestly, these reviews are for readers anyway. So I look at them. I mean, I'll be honest, I look at them, but they don't bother me like they used to. And some of my earlier books, Soul Eyes and Useless Creatures, have some of my lowest reviews. And you know and Soul Eyes actually has some of my best 1-star reviews I've got of any of my books.
Best 1-star.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you look them up, look up the 1-stars on Soul Eyes, and you'll see there's a couple that are just pretty rough, but which is I can deal with that now and be like, that's cool. It's like a badge of honor, but
right.
I think if I got a 1-star, I'd cry. But I'm still new.
Yeah. And that makes a huge difference. You know, had I gotten some of those pretty rough ones early on, I mean, who knows what I would have done, you know. I can get them now, and yeah, they suck, but you know, whatever.
It is what it is.
It just wasn't for them then, you know, and but I know who my audience is, and I know what they like, and you know, I try to make sure that I take care of them.
So you've been writing since 2018, right?
Well, since before then, but that's when I published my first book.
That's when you published your first. Yeah. Okay. How long have you kind of had these stories knocking around in that noggin?
You know, that's so
I'm just trying to gauge how demented you are.
Oh, well. So back when the crib, no.
Perfect. Let's start there.
You know, my freshman year of college, in my English 101 class, I wrote a story then, and I really enjoyed it and enjoyed the process, but I did not pursue English. I did not pursue creative writing. I didn't go that route in college. And so I kind of left that behind. And I just didn't do that for many, many, many years. I mean, probably 10 or 15 years. And then I'd always wanted to, and I had a blog for a while, and I was doing some short stories, and I really wanted to write something longer. And I was encouraged by someone I work with to try NaNoWriMo so that I can give this whole novel writing a shot. And I did, and I failed, and then I did again, and I failed, and I did again, and I finally succeeded, and then I won it like 6 or 7 years in a row, and I've published all but one of those books. But so, gosh, so that probably was 5-6 years before 2018 that I was really writing. But there was a long time from college until then that I didn't do it at all.
Has it always been horror?
No. I write under two names.
Okay.
And I didn't share what my other name was with my Patreon, but if they contacted me privately, I did tell them. But yeah, I write under two names. And so I write fantasy and like sci-fi under another name. Well,
oh, sweet.
I say I write it, but I don't write under that name at all. Like I released a book last year because I had a 4-book series and I just needed to get it done. And I was tired of it just sitting there. Because horror is my love. That's what I've been into since I was a kid. And when I went to college, I have a master's degree in early medieval history. And that's what got me into like fantasy, like Arthurian stories and stuff. But I wasn't a big fantasy reader or sci-fi. I would read it, but not anywhere near like I do with horror. So I couldn't tell you who some of the big authors are in those genres. I couldn't tell you anything. So I have written under that. So getting back to your question earlier, Dan, you said, how many books have you written? And I said 12 or 13 under horror. But when you put the two of them together, it's like 25, 26 books.
Wow.
See, I was right. He writes like a madman.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Although I will say I am disappointed. Every time an author says, I write under a different name, I'm just waiting for the first guy that goes, you can find that on Pornhub. Nobody ever does it.
Nobody.
No, you can't find it.
I don't think that's writing. That's why.
Yeah, that's a little
There's
different.
not really a script.
Well, then I would like to find one of my videos on Pornhub that says, based on the book by not Jay Bauer.
Yeah.
My porn is upper scale.
Oh, God.
Yes. Show's going downhill now.
They didn't take long. I'm
Very
here for
quick.
it.
It's been
It took longer than normal.
Normally it's within the first 5 minutes. It's been about 14.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. So did you just release one? Is Cadaverous one of the newer releases that you just had, or are you in process? Of course, we're always in process. So.
Yeah. So Cadaverous came out last year, and it's in the Indie Author Brawl this year. I'm really thankful for all the readers that voted me into that and put me up to number 12, which is just amazing.
That is sweet.
Yeah, shocked me. Still, I can't believe it. But my latest one that came out in March is called The Terror of Willow Falls.
I saw that book.
That's right. I completely forgot about that. Terror of Willow.
Oh, yeah. I got them blurred anyway. But The Terror of Willow Falls, and that is a prequel origin story for my novella Eyebiter's Revenge.
Yeah.
And so it takes place. The Terror of Willow Falls takes place like in the late 80s, and so it's definitely got a whole 80s horror vibe. Small town coming of age, and it's got this pretty wicked creature that's kind of like a Wendigo, but I've called it an eye biter, and so it's gone over really well. I've got some really great feedback from readers and from other authors, and so that's been my latest one. And I've got a new one that'll be coming out in July. That's a co-written novel, and it's probably going to be the bloodiest thing I've ever released.
Really?
Exciting.
Yeah. I don't normally get into like trigger warnings and stuff, but this one's probably going to have some. And it's a co-written project, and we've not released. My co-writer and I have not released any details about this, so nobody knows that we're writing this book together.
Right.
Well, maybe like 5 people know, but it's going to be a big surprise, and we're actually going to reveal it on our Patreon. Well, on my Patreon, I believe on Saturday.
Sweet.
Is what we decide. So this coming Saturday.
So hurry up and jump on that Patreon
Yeah.
if you want to know.
Yeah.
If you are that nosy.
But that'll be coming out in July, and then I've got a couple different short stories I'm working on for anthologies, and also a Try Not to Die book. I don't know if you've seen some of those out there.
No, but I know what you're talking about.
I don't.
Oh, they are so much fun. Mark Tullius has done this whole series of books called Try Not to Die, and they're each a themed one. I got connected to him through the Try Not to Die Death Fest one, which was like a heavy metal festival, and then he did an anthology. There was like 12 bands in the book, and so he wanted 12 authors that could do like horror and heavy metal. And so many people suggested me because of Cadaverous, and so I got on board with that. But like myself and Duncan Ralston and like Steve Stredd and several others are in this anthology, and Robert Essig is in there, and so we all wrote short stories that tied into that. But I'm doing my own Try Not to Die, and it's Try Not to Die in Brownsville, because most of my books are in Brownsville. So it's like a mashup of like Dead Blood, Cadaverous, Every Time I Die, Master of Demons, Dream Wraith, The Dark Sacrifice, Soul Eyes. It's so just good. Like all thrown in together. And so you get to different points in the book, and you have to make a decision. And the way I've written it so far, you have 3 decisions. You have a wrong one, a wrong one, and a right one. So you have a 2/3 chance of dying before you have to go back and make a different decision so you can continue with the story.
So it's like a choose your own destiny story for adults.
Yes. And so he's got a bunch of different ones. He's got a Try Not to Die at Ghostland that he did with Duncan Ralston. And there's all kinds of different ones. And so I'm working on that. And then a sequel to The Terror of Willow Falls as well. So.
Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds so exciting.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I bet it is. Oh my God. You're making me tired already. That's hard to do.
I heard my wallet start crying.
My cards in my purse going cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yep.
Shit.
I guess we're sending Jay Bauer to Aruba this year.
Single-handedly.
I got so many events I'm going to this year. I'm going to have to sell some books.
So what events are you going to this year? Now that you've brought that up.
Yeah, you brought it up.
That.
Well, in 2 weeks, next week, actually, the 25th, I think it's a Saturday. I'm going to be in Milwaukee. There's Spooky Toad, Spooky Frog. Man, I should know this. They're hosting an event up in Milwaukee. Jeff Strand's going to be there. It's going to be, I've never been to Milwaukee, so that'll be fun. So that's a one-day event. And then I'm going to the Texas Author Con.
Okay.
It's at the end of July, so I'll be down in Dallas for that. And the following weekend, the Books and Brews, hosted by Books of Horror up in Chicago.
I've heard of that. Yeah,
I will be there, and that's just going to be crazy. both those events back to back are going to be really wild.
Yes, they are.
And I've got TBR Con in Knoxville, Tennessee. I believe that's in September. Then October, I'm going to AuthorCon St. Louis, hosted by the Scares That Care folks, the ones that do the same one in Virginia.
Okay.
And that'll be nice because St. Louis is like 2 hours from me, so that'll be really
That'll
close.
be real nice.
Yeah.
And then later that month, I'm going up to Bloomington for Tomes of Terror, which is a one-day event up there. So,
dang it! I was gonna see if you were gonna be able to come to Thrive, but it's about the same weekend that you're, because it's in October. We're doing it in Denver, so it'll be my first time going to Denver, but it'll be my second con for the year, which I'm very excited about. So,
yeah, I've had a few already. It's been great.
You should. Well, get moving, Dan.
No, I feel left out. We should have a Book Asylum con.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Yes.
That would be fun.
I don't want to organize it though.
Ideas are budding. Ideas are budding. Don't get me started. I'll have it organized next week.
I believe you actually.
So how many conventions do you usually get to a year? Or is it usually, are they all bunched up towards the end of the year, or do you go all year?
No, there will be several months I won't go. So like after Milwaukee next week, I won't have anything till the end of July. So I'll have that whole break. And then really after October, I don't have anything scheduled until hopefully I get to a table for AuthorCon next year in Virginia. So that'll be a 4 or 5 month break.
Yeah.
So it's usually spring and fall tends to be, and I don't do a ton of them because it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of time away from my family and being here and doing things that I need to do, at home.
Yeah.
But I love getting out and meeting people. I love meeting readers and meeting other authors and hanging out with them, and just that is so much fun. Like at AuthorCon, I had a reader come up to my table and she was like, I bought from you before and I'm really excited to meet you and everything. I was like, great. And she told me her first name. And then immediately I was like, I spit out her last name just like that. And she's just like, looked at me and I was like,
oh, you just made her day.
I was like, I took a guess and I thought that's who you were. And so it was, but it's so cool. You don't, this is great, what we're doing here, but meeting in person, sitting down, having a drink, just talking about whatever, that's so cool. And I love doing that. So I do enjoy that part of it. But it's also a lot of time and effort and resources to make those
exhausting.
Right.
Yeah.
Peopling is hard.
But it's also great that authors like you do this, because your fan base loves to meet. They like to meet the person. They like to have that experience. And a lot of authors don't do that actually.
Yeah, and we all have different personalities, and there will be times where I'm just like, I don't want to be around anybody, just
right.
just let's go in this corner and hide and then we're good. But in general, I do like to be around people for the most part. It's I've always had great experiences, and I just love making connections with people. I love that part of it.
Yeah, I will say it's authors like you who do take the few minutes to talk to fans is what got me into writing in the first place. Dean Koontz, James Dean did that for me. He talked to me over messaging, and I got into writing because of him, and being threatened with bodily harm by other people, including Jeff Thompson and Jack and those people. but I did it, and I think you have no idea the kind of the impression that you leave on people when you do that, just giving them 5 minutes, because maybe they don't even get that at home. So I think that is so awesome that everybody, that authors are willing to do that and be like, yes, come talk to me, and I hope if I ever do make it past my little hometown that I'm able to do that, you know, for
Right.
somebody else. Cause I think that's amazing. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for James Dean. So
And that's
shout
awesome.
out to my homie.
Well, James, I mean, and you need that, you know, you got to have,
Mhm.
I, you know, I don't view myself as anybody, right? Like, and I'm gonna talk to and try to lift up as many people as I possibly can, you know. I don't feel like I have all or any of the answers, but whatever I do have and whatever I can share, I'm absolutely going to try to pass that along, because it does me no good to hold on to it, you know. And especially aspiring writers or those that want to get into it and they're not sure what to do. Like, you're not my competition. No. There's my competition. None. And I've never looked at it that way. And I think it's a dumb way to look at it. And I
Right.
just, we're all in this thing together, you know. And I say this a lot. Support indie horror.
Yes.
I say that. I've got stickers that have that. I've got T-shirts that have that. I believe that 100%. Did I put one in there? That
I'm pretty sure I have one somewhere.
it's a little round one.
Yeah, come on, bragger girl, find it.
I have tons of stickers all over the place.
But you know, you have to bring others along. Like, I don't feel like being an ass to anybody like that. That makes no sense. And that just, there you go.
There.
Yes.
That was from him.
And I believe that 100%, you know. And it frustrates me when I see others that take it in a very different way. Like, this is not a competition. It's just not,
Right.
you know.
No.
We can't write books fast enough to hold on to one. Like, I can't write enough books for you, Dan, for you to be like, all I can read is Jay, because it takes me a while to write one. You could read it in a day, and then you're moving on to the next one or to someone else. And that's great, because I'm a reader too. I'm going to read these books as well. So,
yep.
You know, anyway,
I think it is so awesome.
I didn't mean.
No, that's really good, because I remember, I think you did a TikTok on getting some stuff ready, or you were getting ready to go to a con or something, and you had stickers in, like, organized, and I was like, oh my God, you're so organized. And you're like, no, really, I'm not.
I'm not.
I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, like, everybody, like, I don't know you from the next person other than that you're an indie author, and I look up to you. I'm like, I'm going to do that. You actually are what gave me the idea of getting a little expandable folder and putting all my stickers in there
nice.
to kind of organize them. So, I mean, you are, you know, out there like role modeling it and don't even know it. But, you know, it's like you gave me that idea, and it's something so small, but it meant the world to me, because I'm sitting here tripping balls. Like, how am I going to get all this stuff into, you know, where it needs to go and look organized so that I don't look like a wreck when I go to this, because I've never done a convention. Right. And I'm a wreck. I'm a wreck all the time. So you gave me inspiration and I ran with it. So I appreciate you for that. And so many others of us, you know, you're wearing the cape and you have no idea.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I like the fact that you watched his TikTok and all you took away from it was organizational skills.
It's my
What's that say about you, Jen?
It's my Virgo rising.
Nuts. Well, speaking of the craft, can we pick your brain a little?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Well, it's not so much for us. It's for everybody watching.
It's for me too.
Come on, that was my one nice moment. You took it away from me, Jen. So when that idea sparks in your head, can you just kind of give us a basic walkthrough of how you take it from there, get it onto paper, then fix it 5 times before you're like ready to let a beta reader read it?
Yeah. So that is a great question. So ideas will strike at just the oddest times. I just, whenever they hit, you know, I'll think about it. I'll mull it over. I'll just, let it marinate for a while before I do anything. Sometimes I'll write down a line or two just to try to remind myself later. But if it's something that really grips me, I'll think about it for quite a while, and I'll hold on to that thought. And then eventually I'll just start writing out some ideas about it, like on in a Word doc, not a Word document, either maybe Google Docs so I can access it when I'm at work or wherever. Or like I use Scrivener a lot. So sometimes I'll drop it in there and just start putting in different ideas, different thoughts, and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll do kind of a really weak outline, maybe just a paragraph about what I want this to be. Sometimes I've done some full-on detailed outlines, but that's very rare. I'm more leaning more towards the pantser side of things. And I've learned every book I write is very different. Like I don't write them the same way. I don't write with the same format, or I'll do partial outlines, full outlines, you name it. It just depends on what I'm feeling for that particular project. But I usually just idea will just strike me in the middle of nowhere. Like I was one of the stories in Hanging Corpses. It's called From the Depths Risen, about a demon or this portal to hell that opens up in the middle of this church, right behind where the pastor was.
Perfect.
I was
where they
sitting
all
in a
show
church at the time when the idea came to me. So they you never know when these things will strike. And
how boring was that sermon? You're like, I wish a portal would just open up and swallow his ass.
So I wrote it, and it's got like ninja priests in it and stuff. So
ninja priests.
That's
beautiful.
That's great.
They have these little glass vials of holy water that they kind of like Batman's belt where they can take and throw.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
What book is this?
It's one of the short stories in Hanging Corpses.
Oh, we got to get that book.
All right, we're gonna have to order that one as soon as the show's done.
Hanging Corpses. Got it.
Ninja.
Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That was gold.
All right. Now that I got that written down.
Again, I have to ask, how boring was church that day that you came up with a portal, ninja priest,
Must have been
vials
throwing
of
I don't remember
water.
what it was about, but I just remember that's where the story came from.
I'm guessing it was a fire and brimstone sermon.
Maybe. I don't
know. I can just see Jay in the pews going, "You're dead. You're dead. You'll be okay. You're fucking dead."
Yeah.
Only because I already know you didn't light that candle for me yesterday. So gotcha.
You're gone. Yeah.
Anyway, continuing on. Sorry.
No, and it's just so that's it just hit randomly, or sometimes I'll see a picture, like a random picture somewhere, and that will spark a story. So a great example of that is Cadaverous, which you've got right there next to you, Jan.
Yeah.
So I've got Hanging Corpses, the cover from that cover artist. He had that cover. It's a stock cover. It wasn't a custom one that I ordered. It was a stock one, and I loved it, but I had no idea what I would do with it. None. But I came across the term cadaverous. I don't know where or how. And so I was like, I don't want anyone else to get this cover. I want to buy this. So I reached out to him and I bought it. And I was like, I want you to put cadaverous on there. And I was like, I don't know when I'll have the final to tell you for the size for the paperback, because I haven't written this yet, but I want it. And he was like, cool, no problem. We can do it. And so I actually had, based off of that cover, I came up with 2 ideas for a story, and I ran them past my friend David Vergoots, and I was like, look, these are the 2 concepts I'm thinking based off of this cover. And so I shared them, and he was like, I don't like that one, but I like this one. And the one he liked and the one I ended up doing was what became the book Cadaverous. So I bought the cover, had a name before I ever wrote a single word to it. And I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And
That's
then,
crazy.
Wow.
and then I wrote it from there. And then not only did I write it, I wrote it in a very different style and format than I've ever written before. So it's kind of epistolary in style. So it's
Mhm.
kind of written like as a series of blog posts. But the foreword and afterword, which those are part of the story. Like you can't skip those. Those are meant, those aren't like,
I read those anyways.
yeah, well, those are part of it. And
Yeah.
as a funny kind of aside, Joe Hempel did the audiobook for me on that. And I had, he didn't record the foreword at first because he, as most readers, they just kind of skip through it. I was like, no, Joe, that's part of it, man. Like I need it. And he looked it over. He was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. He's like, yeah, I get it. But it's those, so yeah, anyway, that the whole concept of that story, the entire story was built off of the cover art.
Wow.
I'm
So
excited.
how many drafts do you usually wind up doing before you think you're ready for the beta reader?
2 or 3 maybe. I write somewhat clean first drafts. I don't typically self-edit a lot, but I do. It just tends to be cleaner. And then I'll go
So
through.
you were one of those kids that were good in English class.
No, so I failed English a couple times.
Oh, geez.
But they was for different reasons. I failed it in high school because I didn't want to turn in homework because I was too busy going out skateboarding.
Okay.
And
Okay. I can respect it.
in college, that first year where I started writing, I failed that class because again I didn't turn in homework, and it was a very rough semester for me personally, just all around. And so I I ended up on scholastic probation after that semester.
I knew I liked you for a reason. A rebel.
Troublemaker.
I turned it around. I ended up on the dean's list and went to grad school, but man, that was not how I started.
So do you use Grammarly or anything your first time around, or you just have it where
Yeah.
you're a very clean writer?
I mean, there's always issues, but it's somewhat cleaner than it used to be. Definitely. I mean, after 20 plus books, it damn well better be cleaner
Better be.
than when I
Yes,
started.
I was gonna say you're pretty well practiced at this point.
Yeah.
So I know you write short stories, and I like short stories too. So I don't want to ask you which you prefer. That's like a question everybody asks. But when you write your short story, what's how do I even word this? Do you minimalize everything? I mean, like, you don't do big long sentences when you can do it shorter. I mean, is there a word count that you have in mind saying this short story is going to not exceed this, and you try to make it fit? I mean, how do you go about your short stories?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. So when I started writing, I was doing a lot of flash fiction. So 1,000 to 1,500 word stories. So I had to learn, and that's just what I did. That's how I broke into writing. And so I learned how to get a story in a short amount of time, to get to the action, get to it right away. It's something I've realized a lot in my own short stories is that I tend to go first person in short stories. And I think the reason I do that is because you're immediately in the action. When you get to, if it's third person, you have that distance, but when it's first person, you're immediately into it. So I cut out a lot of that by going first person. And that's just something I started realizing. I didn't realize it at first. That's what I did. But, and then as far as word count would go, it depends. It depends. So if I'm writing for an anthology and they have a word count limit, then I shoot for that. I tend to always be on the lower side of it. I don't tend to write long. So I tend to be on the lower side of things. So I'll shoot for that. If I'm just writing a short story, they usually are about 2,500, 3,000 words. It's just, again, I tend to write short. I don't tend to write really long pieces.
Is there like this is going to be the wrong word, but is there not a format, not a mechanics? Okay, when I sit down to do a short story, I struggle to try to figure out how to do a story that quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're writing a full length one, you're struggling to like fill pages, but it's like harder to condense. So is there not a machine? What is the method? That's the word.
Okay.
Method that you use when you're like, okay, I got an idea. It's obviously going to be a short story. You know, when you sit down to do it, what's your process? How do you decide if that makes any sense?
No, I do. I understand what you're saying on that, because, you know, sometimes your ideas can just seem like they just go bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's hard to condense that. And it is a lot harder to do a successful short story than it is a novel, because you want to give a satisfying story to the reader in a short amount of time. You know, like you can write a chapter, you know, 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 word chapter, but that's not a complete story. You know,
right.
But to try to bring a story into it, it's a different skill entirely. And so what I've tried to do, and I don't know how successful I am all the time, but what I try to do is on those short stories, you know, there's obviously a backstory to whatever is going on, and there's going to be a continuation of what's going on, but I'm trying to look at this moment right here, you know, right in this, and how it goes from, how the story arc goes from here to there, and has, you know, a twist, and it has some growth for the character. It has some change. You know, I want all of that to happen, but again, I look at it here knowing that there's stuff here and there's stuff here, but I want to focus on this and make this a satisfying story. And like Dead Blood actually started as a like 1,700 word short story, which is in Hanging Corpses. It was written as a short story for a workshop I did back in 2020. And I got the feedback from some of the authors were like, this is awesome. I would absolutely read a whole novel of this. Like, this is a really cool concept. And then I used it later on, the concept. I didn't use the characters and everything from that story, but I used that concept later on to make the series from. But because I knew there was more to it, but I only had to look in the short story at this part of the story, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So even though you're only,
oh, sorry. No. Go ahead, Dan. Because you're probably going into something that's similar.
Okay. Well, if you're only looking at this one window, but you do still need to bring a little of that back and into it. I mean, this is where, I guess this is where I find the most challenging. How do you organize enough information to tell that story, to make that idea flesh out, and do it in such a short amount of words?
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask.
Is that it?
Yeah.
One for Dan.
Point. Yeah, and that is the challenge, right? Of how do you make this character feel alive and feel like they've been existing already when you're just meeting them and you're just getting into their world, you know?
Right.
And that is tough. It's, you know, some of the things that I've done is I do a lot of internal monologue in a lot of my writing. And so sometimes some of that will come in, like, you know, let's say this guy is on a street corner and he's the murderer and he's getting ready to go after his victim that he sees down at the block, right? So like he's crouching, moving closer. Maybe he's hearing thoughts of like seeing his kids suffer in his mind, like something bad happened in his past. It's making him do what he's doing now. It's like just little callbacks throughout the story that feel natural, tend to help bring that to the story that is going on.
Yeah, I can see where that would bring in some depth to it. That's brilliant, actually.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of this, Jen?
I don't know, because you're not
I don't
Jay.
know either. Yeah, because I'm not Jay.
But yeah,
Well,
that
but I'll
was,
be the first that signs up for the Jay Bauer short story course.
yeah, we'll see. This I pay attention to Facebook apparently. That's how I got this. And you don't. So
Just because you can read and I can't doesn't mean nothing.
you got to listen to audiobooks.
That one's on audio too.
There you go. It is. I actually accidentally missed it because I clicked on something else and I really hate the story. But I digress. I thought I pushed yours and it ended up being something else. I was like, oh shit. Okay, we're going with this.
How could you even do that? It says Jay
Look,
Bauer,
first
or
of
it
all,
doesn't.
apparently, like I said, I just started needing reading glasses.
Mhm.
Leave
That
me
makes a
alone.
big difference.
It does.
It helps. It helps.
I was not happy.
So let's flip it to the novel size. Now you got a great story. You're not restricted down to 1,700
You gotta
words, and you can
draw it
have a
out.
lot more fun. And then you've got 40,000 words in, and you're like, shit, how am I going to come up with another 30?
I've been there, because sometimes you move your story too fast, or maybe your idea just wasn't that big to begin with. Maybe you thought it was, but maybe it just wasn't. And when you get to that point, it gets frustrating for me when I'm like struggling near the end. And when I get the end, when I get near the end of any novel, I don't care which one it is, but when I get near the end of any of them, I always kind of struggle. It's like, I've been with this for so long. I'm like ready to move on. I want to be done, but I want to get it done right. And so I do struggle a bunch when I get near the end of a project because I've been with it for so long and I have all these other ideas. I want to move on to something else. And so sometimes it can feel like it drags, and I have to catch myself, because if I'm feeling that, readers are going to pick that up in the book, and I don't want
Right.
that.
Yes.
And so I've got to be very careful about that, and be and recognize that in my own writing, so that I don't continue that. Some books, like Cadaverous is one that actually I didn't really feel that way. That book was it was like a love letter for me to the music of what I grew up on, because there's so much reference to music in that book. And it's all the stuff that I'd listened to growing up, and stuff that I still listen to. And it was just so much fun. And I've had so many people asking, like, you must have done a lot of research for this book. You can really tell. And I'm like, not really.
Nope,
Like,
I just grew up.
I lived it.
They say, yeah, right. They say, like, write what you know. Well, I knew a lot of this stuff, and I just went with it. And yeah, but it can get tough when you get to a certain point in a book, and you're like, what do I got to do now? So sometimes I'll take a step back and look at it, and like, oh, well, I didn't really give enough attention to this plot point or this detail.
Yeah.
I really need to build this up because it needs it for the story. Not just for fluff, but it really needs it for the story. So I'll look at those instances where I can add more to it and build onto it, to the story, to get to where it needs to go. And then, in the end, the story will be however long the story is going to be. Like the Dead Blood books, they're all somewhat short. They're just a little over 40,000 words per book. But I write, I mentioned earlier, I write short. My books don't tend to be really long, and those are shorter than normal, but it worked fine. And I had complete stories in all three of the books. But it definitely is a series. So,
Yeah, I had a instance where I got bored in my own writing, and I was like, I got to come up with something. And so I was like, because I know if I'm getting bored, my audience is going to be bored.
Right.
So I had to figure that one out. I stepped away. I did exactly what you said. So I'm on the right track.
Yeah. That's probably why I have so many projects going on. So if I get, if one of them just, I need a break, I can go to the other
Jump
one.
to another one. Yep, I
Yep.
have like 4 or 5 in addition to.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my questions coming up, was whether you write multiple things, because it seems like a lot of people do.
Mhm.
A lot of authors do, but
Gives you a
word
break.
count. So you're not one of those that say, you stick to this whole word count thing where if it's not 50,000 or more, that's not a full book. You literally just write till the story's complete. And if it
Yeah,
turns out to be that, it's fine. If it's 40, it's fine. Is that safe to say?
Yes. Excuse me. NaNoWriMo is all about getting 50,000 words in 1 month. And I
Mhm.
found that's kind of where my wheelhouse is, because that's, I've won that, like I said, 6 or 7 years. So I've written 50,000 words or more in a month
Holy shit.
for all of those years. So I can write fast, but I learned that averages out to 1,667 words a day. And so that's, my chapters have been around 1,500 to 2,000 words since then. It's just, I must have taught myself that's what you do. And so most of them will be around 50, but
Wow.
that's not like a hard and fast rule. Some are a little bit longer. Some are definitely on the shorter side, but whatever the story, wherever it goes, that's where it ends up being. If it's a novel, I want to get it over 40,000.
Mhm.
You definitely, some places, if you go to promote it, it needs to be a certain word count. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. Like if you want to ever get a BookBub featured deal, it's got to be like over 35,000 words. So there's certain things you might want to account for, but really when you're coming down to the art of it, to the story itself, whatever it is what it is, man.
I shoot for 45 so that the editor can cut whatever she needs to cut. And I still have over 40.
As a reader, I don't particularly like really long books,
Right.
because I want to keep going to the next one, and I don't want to spend a crap ton of time on one long book when
Like it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those really long stories are great, and there's so much depth, and I've read some fantasy, so I understand what the world building can be, but I like mine shorter, and I tend to write that way. And I think the trend has been leaning more towards that in horror in general.
Yeah. Well, and then you put in so much in those 40,000 words, 50,000 words. You do put in a lot, and it gives a lot for the reader. And then, of course, if you leave them wanting more, they're going on to the rest of the series.
Right.
So I like the thinner books. I like the 40,000, 50,000 word books because I can read them in a day or two. And that's what I want, and I'm getting quality books. I know, because I know you authors, and I know that I know how you guys write, and I know I'm getting quality books. Unlike it, where I spent like 6 months of my life reading that book, trying to get past Stephen King, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going to get some hate mail for this, but I don't like him. He writes like a drunk, and I didn't need all of that extra fluff about the one female in there and all sorts of ridiculousness that happened to her and I'm good. That was unnecessary. It had no play in that book, but that was Stephen King. And
that was also the time, right? Like when it was written and when it was released, that's kind of what was somewhat of the norm. I mean, that book is still bigger than the norm, but
yes,
it wasn't unheard of. Now,
right.
In today's world, that a book like that would just not land really well.
No, it would piss off a lot.
Yeah, people are like, I don't want to give up 6 months of my life to read this. It's a textbook.
I read it when it first came out, and the only thing that fazed me about that book was the ending.
Yeah.
Where I'm all like, wow, literally I've invested so much time.
But that seems to be the only one that I found that Stephen King didn't do that. Not saying that I've read all of them. I've not read all of Stephen King's, but the only one that I have read so far is The Stand that did not turn me off because of the ending. What other, like the Langoliers or some other of his books, I'm just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And you must have been drunk when you were writing. Speaking of, what is your what is,
Do you get drunk and then write? That's what she's going to ask you.
I was what are your little pleasures that you like to have? I like to have, snackies, and I have to have a drink, like water, Crystal Light, not
Water, yes.
not that,
It's
although
vodka.
I have maybe the mixer. No. So, do you have like a ritual that you do to kind of get yourself into it? Do you need music or no music, or do you have to have it quiet?
Yeah. So I have a writing desk, which I'm sitting at right now, and I never write at my writing desk. Ever.
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was left field. Even I don't go out there.
All right.
Alice in Wonderland.
But I don't use it. And I write in the mornings. I like real early in the morning. So I don't have any snacks. I have coffee and my computer, and I have it silent, and I have like my 2 dogs next to me, and that's it. Then I'll write away. If I have a day off from work, it'll be the same way all day long. I don't turn the TV on at all. I don't have any play. I typically don't play any music when I write. If I do, it's got to be an instrumental, because if it's got lyrics or something to it, I won't pay attention to my writing.
Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It pulls me away. I can't.
Yes.
It has to be quiet.
Yep. Yeah.
See, and I have Supernatural in the background.
You have Supernatural going right now.
I do not, because
She
that
does.
would definitely, I do not. My screen is blank right now. But normally, yes. But because I'm a weirdo, I have it really low, but I have to hear, I don't know what it is about them Winchester boys. I mean, I know
Whatever
what it is.
takes.
Right? Get the creative juices flowing.
Exactly.
Definitely getting something going.
Are you sure there's not vodka in that bottle over there?
Swear to God. Not yet.
We didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
that's it. And like, it's quiet and just on the couch with my computer and just working away. It's a pretty boring process. There's not much to it.
Do you do a lot of research at all?
Sometimes, I mean, not
It's
a ton.
horror, so you don't really need a whole lot unless you're like pointing out specifics. But
Right. So not a ton, but if I need something like in the moment, I've got my computer, I'll pull it up online really quick and
Right.
get some of the details so that I can try to make the story feel real. But not, I mean, the one time I can remember actually doing research was when I wrote the first draft of my book, Master of Demons. And I was in that book, the main character uses alcohol, kind of like the Animus in Assassin's Creed. And so
Nice.
alcohol takes him to these alternate worlds. And so like he drinks moonshine and he ends up in this this alternate reality with all these hillbillies, right? He drinks tequila and he's on a ship with Cortez coming over to the New World. And he drinks vodka and he's on an expedition in Russia. But I researched all 3 of those alcohols and some of those areas ahead of time to kind of get a feel of everything and to make sure that
you weren't too far off the mark.
Right. And so but that really informed that book and so that's, but other than that, I don't do a ton of research. I mean, I'm been around a little bit, so I've been exposed to lots of different things.
I think we all have.
So a lot of that just comes into my writing. But
so clarify, if you don't mind, when you were writing Master of Demons, your research was drinking all these different alcohols to see what it was going to do to you, right?
No,
No, I missed it.
No, yeah. I mean, I've had all of them, but that was not part of the research. Yeah.
Oh,
You
that's
did it wrong.
yeah. That would definitely give me an excuse.
That could be why the book sucked for so many years and I couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
And so that book actually was the very first novel I ever wrote of any of them was Master of Demons, but it wasn't called that to begin with. It's had 3 different name changes. It's had different endings, and it sucked for the longest time. It just was terrible, and I could not get it right. Like in the original version, this guy's drinking all this stuff, and of course his real life is going to hell because he's all concerned about drinking. At the very end of the book, when everything else is gone, his fiance is gone, he's lost his power to his house, like he's everything's done, right? So he makes basically makes himself a Long Island iced tea, just pours all kinds of stuff in it, because he figured out that these different alcohols will do this. So he just pours it all together and drinks it, and that was the end. That sucked.
Oh man, you did a
Yeah, because I'm all like, wait a minute, that's a trip all on its own.
Yeah.
What was that movie? Inception. You inceptioned us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't
Good
know.
one, Jen.
Yeah. Did the top fall or not? And I lasted more than 5 minutes for that movie. Some of it.
You obviously did. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I figured you would have gave up on that right away.
No, I like smart movies. That was a smart movie.
Zombie Ass is a very smart movie.
Zombie Ass is not a smart
It is.
No. Neither were Killer Clowns or Chud or any of the other recommendations you idiots gave me.
Well, maybe not Chud.
You didn't like Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
I love it.
Oh, that movie's
What
awesome.
is it with the popcorn? I'm so confused.
You put them in a cotton candy cocoon and drink their blood? I mean, come on.
Mamma mia, I can't. My IQ dropped like 20 points just watching these movies.
I love that movie.
Me too.
Everybody does, apparently, except for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I like aliens. I like,
Okay.
give me Sigourney Weaver. I'm good.
I think I would be too.
No, not like that.
Definitely like that with me.
So, moving on.
Of course. Not allowed to talk like this, Dan.
So what's next, Jay? Besides July, because we already talked about July.
Yeah. So after that, I'm not sure yet if it's going to be the next Willow Falls book, which I'm tentatively titling The Burden of Life. So it's either The Burden of Life or Try Not to Die in Brownsville will be the next ones up.
God, that's a hard choice because those are great titles.
Wow.
Yeah. I struggled with The Burden of Life. Like I ran it past John Lynch and John Durgan. We chat like every day, ever since we got together last year to do our book.
He did a blurb, didn't he?
Lynch?
John Lynch did a blurb in Cadaverous.
Yeah. Him and Megan did.
Yeah.
But we talk daily, and some of the first ideas I had for the title of the new book, they were both like, "No, that sucks." Like. Which is great. I mean, that's where I want that feedback is right there, So I thought some more on it, and I came up with that just because of what the story is. It's this whole eye biter series, basically, and that all came about because of the book that I did with those two guys last year, and with my story, Eye Biter's Revenge, that was part of it. And readers were like, we want to know more about this thing. What is this creature? And I was like, that would be a really cool thing to write. So I'm turning it into a series. I went from a novella that was part of our collection to a series. So it's kind of fun. So it took a while to come up with the name of that book, though.
It's nice when those things work out.
Yeah. It helps.
Yeah, it just kind of falls in your lap.
Yes.
Jen, you got anything else?
I do not. I was just telling my dog to go lay down. Sorry.
Did
She
your dog
was-
tell you to fuck off?
She was looking at me like, hey, bitch, are you done yet? And I'm like, no, go lay down. We had a communication and I just made her leave.
Nice.
I actually have like 2 pages more questions, but we are definitely out of time. Man, I will beg you to come back and do another show with us. I hope you'll be open to it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to come back.
Thank you.
Yeah. This has like been a really great, fun episode. And yeah, you're just so easy to talk to. And it's nice. I don't know what else to say about that.
Right.
It's pretty much said it all. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity and the discussion, and it's been fun. I mean, I'll dock Jen a couple points because she doesn't like killer clowns, but whatever.
Oh, damn.
I know.
It's
It's okay.
Dan's fed
No.
up with my shit. I'll tell you that right now.
All I got to say is I can't believe you got a special edition book and you didn't like killer clowns. Kind of like
on.
a shitty world.
Look, I'm not gonna lose 20 IQ points reading this. I might gain
I hope
some.
not. I hope you don't. I don't promise anything, but
I'm pretty sure I won't. but yeah, no, Killer Clowns was fucking horrible.
No. Anyway, Jay, obviously we can find you on Amazon.
Yes.
Tell us everywhere else that we can find you. And we'll put it up when this goes live. We'll go ahead and put that into the notes so that they can join your Patreon and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my website is jaybauerauthor.com. That'll have links to, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I tend to be on Facebook the most. TikTok, kind of not a close, but second. I'm on X or Twitter, but I'm very rarely on there. And then my Patreon is patreon.com/cellardwellers. Because my Facebook group is Bauer's Basement of Humanity, which came about with when I started. I had 2 authors, Amy Hale and then Carver Pike. I had suggested some names and I combined them to make it Bauer's Basement. And so I always call them cellar dwellers. And so that's where the Patreon came from.
I'm part of that group.
It works.
But yeah, those are my website is the easiest way to find me to reach out from there, or just find me on Facebook. I'm all over the place there.
Great. And soon to be in Pornhub with your other name, I'm assuming.
No.
Yes.
No.
Not that
Yes.
I'm aware of.
I'm going to push you to do it.
The site will close down if that happens. We don't want that.
I don't know. I've heard some of the stuff Dan finds on there.
You said you wouldn't tell.
I didn't tell the specifics. I'm just saying.
Next show, I will tell you the specifics.
Yeah, I'm not. It's embarrassing.
Nothing wrong with midgets and farm animals.
Oh God. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. We really appreciate you coming and dealing with us. And I'm J.L. Folk, and this is Dungeon Dan. Say bye, boys.
Bye.